Hey everybody, it's Bust, and I wanted to talk about a lot of the design aspects of the Bazaar that we've seen up to this point through the open beta, but do it through the lens of someone that played Legends of Runeterra. I think we get a lot of perspective from people that play different games. You come from Backpack Battles, you're like Crip and came from Hearthstone. If you're like Raren and came from Hearthstone, people like Northern Lion that really kind of travel the indie scene. I feel like I have a bit of a unique perspective in coming from the game Legends of Runeterra, which unfortunately no longer exists. And so, that if you're not familiar with Legends of Runeterra, it was Riot. Riot Games, the makers of humongous successes, League of Legends and Valorant. They stepped into the space of card games with Legends of Runeterra. They kicked off their beta around January of 2020. I feel like it was right at the beginning of 2020 when the game was released. That's also when I started doing content creation as well. I did content creation from the open beta of Legends of Runeterra right up through the end of the game's existence. And I think that that's the kind of key word, the key sentence to really hone on as what I just said. We played the game right up through the end of its existence. Now, it's not to say that it's not still there. There is a PvE version of the game, which the people in the know would probably call Path of Champions more so than Legends of Runeterra, but the game failed. It was a monetary failure. It came from a AAA studio. It had all of the backing from Riot. It had the League of Legends IP. It had a superstar development team attached to it. In my opinion, it has been the best card game made up to this point. And it failed. It's not here. It's not here anymore. And I think that you can see a lot of parallels between the space that we're at right now and what we saw up through the initial release of Legends of Runeterra. And so I wanted to, kind of kick this video off with a bit of a history lesson. I thought it would be kind of nice if we slapped a little bit of Legends of Runeterra on the screen, put the little bit of history marker over here to the left. That looks pretty good to me now. And I wanted to stop and talk a little bit about the start that Legends of Runeterra had. And I think that you're immediately going to see quite a few parallels between what we saw in LOR and what we just saw with the release of the open beta from Tempo. And so, as I'd kind of mentioned, LOR was released at January of 2020. The idea was they would do that open beta, process the feedback, do a second closed beta. I'm sorry, they are closed, not open. After that second closed beta, they would adapt the feedback again and then go out into a full release. And I feel like that's pretty much the space that we're in right now with the Bazaar, right? We had the closed beta from Halloween up through like last week. The open beta is starting right now. The open beta is typically kind of the indicator of server stress testing and just onboarding more people than you're typically used to having. And the game is, kind of pretty polished and getting ready to release in that open form. Now, what we saw with Riot, if you think back to January 2020, you might go, "Oh fuck, that's pretty close to COVID." And what happened is, as the lockdowns hit in March or April, whenever that went about, Riot said, "Hey, we're sitting on a video game here. People are just sitting at home. They're not allowed to leave their houses. They need to just be playing our video game as something to do." And while that makes a lot of sense in your head, I feel like that brought forth two major problems in the sense that, number one, a game like the Bazaar or a card game like Legends of Runeterra really lends itself to doing well on mobile, right? If you're a big Bazaar player, you might get to play a couple of rounds in the morning, and then you take the bus to work. On the bus, you get to play a couple of more rounds. You get to work. You're waiting for a meeting. You get to play 10 minutes until the meeting starts. You play a little bit at lunch. You're ready for your afternoon shit now, and you go and sit in the stall for 10 minutes and get some more game in, right? The game is exceptionally well designed for these small chunks of time. And so if you look at the space of COVID and the lockdowns, all that you had was time, right? You were not limited. You were not forced to, just kind of like sit around on your ass and not have anything to do, because that's exactly what you were expected to do for 2 weeks plus. And so I feel like that the game was rushed, and in that they rushed their monetization system. And so I want to kind of like really lay this out here and see how familiar this stuff might sound of you in comparison to the Bazaar. And so the way that the game was released, the way that it was intended to be played, was you had to play the draft mode Expedition. If you played Expedition and did well, you would get to unlock wild cards that you could use to purchase the champions if you want. If you played the expedition and failed or didn't do that well, then you just got a random champion. And so the champions are the big highlight characters of every deck. And if you're really into League of Legends, then you can go out and purchase the legend, the champion that you like, and put them in your deck. Now, that's not enough to get you a full deck. Your deck could have 6 champions in it. And so to further push the monetization outside of having to purchase your way into Expedition, or if you just don't want to play Expedition, you could purchase wild cards. And wild cards are just like they are in Magic the Gathering. You get a rare wild card, you can purchase a rare card, you get a common wild card, you could purchase any common card. And so the idea was that you could then go and purchase these champion wild cards, go and purchase whatever champions you want, get off to the races. But the limiting factor within that system is you could get 3 champions out of Expedition, and you could get 3 champion wild cards each week. That was it. You were limited to 6 champions per week. If you wanted more, you had to wait more until the next week until everything reset, and you could come in and purchase it. Then the way that kind of goes is at the initial release of the game, there might have been like 30 champions, might have been closer to 20 than 30. I don't remember exactly, but you couldn't purchase all of them right out the gates. And so it was going to take you, even paying to win, it was going to take you a full month to 6 weeks to purchase all of the cards within the game, get that access to the full collection. And as we just saw with the release of the open beta, the crowd went fucking ballistic. They went absolute nonsense. What if I want to get 9 champions and I can't? Why do I have to pick a champion that may not be good? What if I pick this champion and it gets nerfed next week? What if I pick this champion and it's off meta? What if the big content creator at the time comes out with a deck tomorrow? I want to play the deck and I can't do it. I can't purchase everything. The crowd went absolutely fucking bonkers ballistic, and Riot backed it up. They said, okay, give us a hot second to regroup. If you're going to go this nutsos over it, then we're going to come in and change everything. And so that's what Riot did. They came right back. They waited maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. I don't remember the exact timeline on the scenario, but said, okay, you can purchase all of the wild cards that you want. You can get them right out the gates. You can purchase the entire collection of the game right out the start if you want. But at that point, they had already kind of locked in how the monetization system was supposed to work, how the collection of gems would then translate into the purchase of items down the road, the kind of pacing that it was supposed to take to collect all of the cards. And they didn't have time to go back and revamp it, right? They released it. They didn't test it in beta. The crowd went fucking nuts. They had to make a knee-jerk reaction, and then the game was fucked from that point forward. And so basically, economically, the way the game went, the free-to-play players absolutely loved it. They could get a full collection in roughly 4 weeks, right? If you just jumped into the game, you could get a pretty meta collection in about a month. If you wanted every card in the game, it might take you about 3 months, but as we all know from card games, you don't need every card in the game to be successful. You just kind of need that core on meta stuff, and you could do it. You could drop like $20 to $50, get it on day one. You could play free to play for a month and have it all, and then after 3 months or so, you just had every card in the game. And the thing that was supposed to happen, the thing that all of the free to play players always promise to do, is that they're going to come out and buy cosmetics, right? You say you sell so many cosmetics in League of Legends, you sell so many cosmetics in Valorant, you have to be able to come out here in the space of Legends of Runeterra and just do the absolute same thing. Don't worry, we're going to buy all of the cosmetics, we're going to do everything we can, and then we're going to drop all the cash that we have on these sweet ass cosmetics that you're going to give us. And then of course nobody does it. It doesn't happen. You want to be a Dooley player. You saw the expansion just came out. You couldn't purchase anything for Dooley. Sad day for me, so I'm not going to spend anything. So maybe next month something comes out for Dooley. You purchase it, great. Next month nothing comes out for Dooley. You don't purchase anything. Next month something comes out for Dooley, but you just bought that last skin a couple of months ago, so I'm not going to purchase one this month. And the next month nothing comes out for Dooley, so you don't purchase anything. Next month something comes out for Dooley, and you're like, I still really like the skin I have, right? He doesn't have big titties in this one, right? He doesn't he doesn't have whatever you're looking for. He's not a very sexy looking robot in this one. I'm not going to do it. And then at the end of the day, you don't really ever spend any money on the game. And while that may not, necessarily happen to you, it may not be your exact experience. That's just what happens in general. And then the company just didn't make any money. They tried hard. They pivoted left and right and up and down, trying to get various things to work. And the things just never panned out. As you can see on the screen right here, have premium versions of all of the cards on the screen. I actually memed it up quite a bit with Legends of Runeterra. I did what I called paying the pay-to-win price, right? I felt like while upgrading your cards to prismatic so they're shiny or getting the new skins on them doesn't affect them gameplay-wise, it makes them feel good, right? Makes them feel good about themselves. You take a nice shower, you shave, you put on a good outfit, you're ready for a hot night on the town, you're looking good. You're not out there in your fucking dirty sweatpants and stuff. And so you're looking good, you're feeling good, you're knowing you're going to have a good night. That's how our decks felt. And so as I made a video, every single video I made, I went through and turned to card premium every single time. And I had to spend money doing that, like literally forcing myself to buy cosmetics every single day that I made a video. One video a day, 7 days a week, purchasing a cosmetic every single day. Probably had to physically spend money maybe a third of the time, 25% of the time, I don't know. And so, just running into that space, like that's that exact parallel that I saw with Legends of Runeterra in the sense that, they released the monetization, the crowd went fucking nutsos, the path had to immediately be changed to kind of save face, and then it never recovered, it never came back. And, that's the ultimately the kind of space that I worry about running into in the lands of the Bazaar. I think that they've really tapped into something special here with the Bazaar. I think the game itself is quite special. It's quite strong. But I ultimately worry that the game will be kind of forever changed, or it will be forever at a detriment because a small percentage of people on Reddit and a small percentage of people on Discord are upset with the monetization system, having to wait a month to get all of that content unlocked. And so, I think it's unfortunate. I will give some, kind of caveats to the measure to where I feel, kind of bad for people. If you are in that group in Belgium, the Belgiumese, I don't, is that they're not Danish, right? Oh God. You've got this guy on the screen with this fucking hick-ass hill person accent trying to trying to decide what people from Belgium are called. The Belgians, right? The Belgians. They're the Danes or the Netherlands or the Dutch. I'll just stop. But they're not allowed to play because of loot boxes. I think that's a real shitty go. I think that you run into world macroeconomic problems that aren't really Tempo's fault, that are a real, detriment to gamers in the sense that I don't remember the exact conversion rate of American dollars to Brazilian dollars, but there were a ton of Brazilians that played Legends of Runeterra, right? There's a huge Brazilian crowd in League. A lot of them moved over to Legends of Runeterra, and the exchange rate is astronomical. It's something like every US dollar is like 7 Brazil dollars or something. And so if I'm paying $10 a month American to play pay to win Bazaar, whatever we're going to call it, a Brazilian is then paying essentially $70 a month. And I do feel for those people. I think that something has to be done there. But I think it's also very disingenuous to assume that cosmetic purchasers are going to carry the load for the free-to-play players. And so I don't feel like that take is too out of touch. I don't feel like it's too crazy. But I can tell you from history of playing a game with a AAA studio with all the resources a game could need to succeed, had this exact same opener, they bungled it, the game's fucking gone. And so that is something that you do have to keep in mind, right? Am I willing to chip in a little bit more? Am I willing to wait a month to get access to these new cards in order to keep the game alive? I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to hold the Tempo team down to a one sentence line on an Indiegogo written 7 years ago. Like I don't entirely know what's fair in those senses, but I feel like the knee jerk reaction is very probably expected in these days, but it's also fairly off base in terms of what I think is fair to the games if you ultimately want to have a successful game for a prolonged period of time. And so, as we move on to the next topic we're calling the price of fun, I thought it would be appropriate to switch to a different LOR video. You know, some more bust out here playing LOR still. We had scouts in the previous video. Miss it so much. Move over to a little bit of a little bit of Gwen Katarina, some oh man, what are these cards even called anymore? It's the it's using the rallies with the landmark and stuff. It's been too long, unfortunately. But no, we're calling this the price of fun, and the way that I try to rationalize a lot of this, the way that I try to wrap my brain around a lot of the monetary concepts of this style of game is just looking at how much it costs per hour, right? And so if we look at something like Netflix, right? If we're looking in the space of entertainment, Netflix costs like $20 a month now. I don't even know. Say you watch it for 2 hours a day, so you get 60 hours of entertainment for $20 a month, or essentially 33 cents an hour of entertainment coming from Netflix. I probably nailed that math. You know, if you're a regular follower, you're in for a fucking treat. As this math is really tough for me to piece together, but that's essentially right. You know, you go to a movie's 2 hours long. Call it 3 hours of fun with a little bit before, a little bit after, and some previews. You pay $15 for a ticket. That's $5 an hour of fun, right? 3 hours of fun for $15. And the thing that I feel like we get in the gaming space is we get just absolute bonkers amount of value out of this equation, right? If you want to say, like, what's it cost to go to an NFL football game? It's going to cost like $200 for the tickets. It's going to cost like $40 for parking. It's going to cost another like $40 in concessions. Like all in, you're probably there for $300 for like 4 hours of entertainment. So you're dropping like $75 an hour for that kind of thing. It's very, very fucking expensive to go to something like that. And you know, one of the places that we see a lot of concern for in the gaming space are the owners of Grand Theft Auto coming out and saying like, hey, don't be surprised if the next game's like $100 an hour. And people say that's absolutely fucking bonkers, batshit insane to sell a game for $100 or $100 at release. And their thing is like, well, you play the game for like 1,000 hours a year, right? You spend $60 on the game. You might spend $60 a year in total getting like further DLCs and like a random skin or something. But, you know, all in, if you're in for $100 a year and getting 1,000 hours of fun per year out of the game, that's a pretty good deal. And at what point does that stop being a good deal, right? Would you spend $100 for 500 hours of fun, right? That's still a pretty decent rate. We're at 20 cents an hour. That's cheaper than Netflix. Would you spend like $100 for 100 hours of fun, right? At what point does this like stop hitting the mark? And, you know, that's a question that's different for everyone, right? You know, it's different being in my situation as an American working adult that has a, you know, probably higher rate of income than an American teenager working at Target or Walmart or something, as compared to an American preteen with no job, compared to someone in Brazil, to where the exchange rate is 7 times different. Like I get that the situation is different for everyone involved, but you know, like at what point are you willing to say this is like a good return on my dollar investment in this? And I think that that's something that, you know, scrolling back to the previous section to where the game Legends of Runeterra doesn't exist, like what is the balance between Legends of Runeterra existing and it not existing, right? What would have been a fair rate for an average player to pay in for this to be a fair thing? And it's unfortunate to say, but like I feel like if your rate is $0, right? If you're our game, my video fucking froze. If it's at a rate of 0, if you are literally 100% free to play for the longevity of the game, I just don't feel like your opinion matters on the situation. Like I'm sorry, but if that was your kind of standpoint, is you got into the closed beta because your friend purchased a founder's pack and then you just free to played it the whole way. They announced the monetization system. You felt that system was unfair, but you intended on being a 0% subscriber the entirety of the way. I just don't feel like your opinion matters. But there has to be some kind of balance, right? Should it be like higher than the 33 cents an hour that you get out of Netflix? Should it be $1 an hour? Should it be $10 an hour? Like I feel like when I look at it personally and do the equation that I see with it is that I'm probably not getting the subscription. I don't see the purpose in getting all of the extra chests. Like, I have enough skill at the game to not need the extra chests to keep things going. I don't understand the purpose of getting all of the extra cosmetics. I'm not going to participate in selling stuff on the bazaar. Like, I just don't care about that. And so if there's like a skin or something I'm interested in, I'll probably purchase it. Now, as the angle as a content creator, I'll just probably purchase it anyways so the viewers can see it. But I'm like not invested in the subscription pass at this point. Fine, like I'm at 0 an hour, but I am willing to spend the $10 a month to get the expansion packs immediately. And so I'm a $10 a month player. I play for 1 to 2 hours a day, so we'll call that 1.5 hours. And so I'm going to be coming in for 45 hours a month of playing the Bazaar. I'm going to spend $10 a month and get 45 hours of value back in return. I think that that's a good deal. I don't know how that math pans out, right? How does that pan out? Is it easier if it's 50 hours? If I play for 50 hours at $10, is that 20 cents an hour? I think I nailed that. At any rate, I think that, at least to me, is the fair way to look at it. It's not entirely fair to say that people will never spend money on this. They'll never get any money invested in it. But that is the only way that I can really kind of wrap my brain around, like, how do I translate the value of my physical currency going into a digital card game, and what am I getting back in return for it? The thing that I get back are the hours of fun that I have invested in the game. And I feel like, at least to me, for an American with a median rate of income, that is a fair price. Now, I could be wrong. That line on Indiegogo from 7 years ago might have completely knocked that out of the park and not made that realistic. But I think that that's a fair, level-headed take on the monetization system within the game. And then if you do need to be at that $0 an hour rate, I unfortunately told you that your opinion doesn't matter. But if that's to where you need to be, that's fine. I hope you get to come in and enjoy the game. I don't think having to wait a month on the new content to come out is that big of a deal. I mean, the thing I feel like I've really wanted to see with the release of the open beta and the amount of outrage that it got is, why does no one complain about Dooley, right? The thing that really strikes me as weird here. We'll just go ahead and call that a new topic, and then we'll move to something else. Why does no one complain about Dooley? And so, is it Dooley? Does he have an E in there? And so that's one of the things that's actually been pretty baffling to me up to this point. And then after this point, we'll be done with the monetization. Like, I don't agree with, but I understand where people come from the Indiegogo stuff. I get that they said it. It was a line on the page. You bought into that. You bought into the whole system. Things changed. You're upset. I don't agree. I get it. I get if you're in that camp of, I don't have access to all of the cards that someone else does. Bust has access to diving weights and I don't. Bust is now at an advantage. I understand the argument. I don't agree with it. But the thing I feel like I've completely missed in the entirety of this discourse on Discourse and Reddit, on Discord and Reddit, is, why has no one complained about Dooley? Dooley has no access to the expansion. If I'm a Dooley main, I play Dooley all the time, right? Well, I play Vanessa, right? I have played Vanessa exclusively for probably like the past 2 months. But if you say you're a Dooley player, you have no access to any cards in the expansion whatsoever. And so not only are you behind Vanessa, not only are you behind Pygmalion, you have no way to catch up. There's no way as a Dooley player for you to go and acquire more Dooley cards because they don't exist, right? It's not even a function of paying to win. It's not a function of purchasing the expansion. The cards literally do not exist, and so they do not exist for you to go out and purchase. And so why is that not something outrageous as to where having the ability to purchase an expansion is? And so now, not only as a Dooley only player, a Dooley main, do I have to lag behind the competition? I have no way to catch up unless I want to stop playing the character that I like playing. And so it's it's something that I don't think is that big of a deal. I feel like the biggest point in time to where these expansions matter is right now. Right, this is when adding an expansion into the game has the highest impact on the game. You add in 10 cards to the Vanessa pool. Vanessa has increased that card pool size by 10%. Once we get to the next one, when we're adding in 10 cards to 110, then that's only like what, like a 9% difference. And then when we get to the next one, adding in 10 cards onto 120 gets it down to what, like a 7% difference. And then it actually gets more interesting to me when you get into that space of the champions having like access to 5 and 6 and 7 expansions, as to where you get to decide, I'm bringing the aquatic kit, I'm bringing the ammo kit, I'm bringing the ammo kit plus this aquatic kit that has ammo stuff in it. I think that the game actually gets more interesting as you start to go down that path. Do I want to have access to a potentially weaker card pool that is more streamlined, or do I want to have access to a high-powered card pool that gets access to the best cards in the game, but as a downside has a smaller percentage to find those cards? I think that those are all very interesting conversations and will be very interesting design points that we see moving forward coming out of the Bazaar. It's wildly different than what you get out of Marvel Snap, right? The hatred that you see towards a lot of this stuff is Marvel Snap has this, time to money gating to where you get access to stuff, and if you're free to play, you don't. But with Marvel Snap, you get to bring your own deck, right? You don't have the space to where the cards that you just purchased may not even show up within a current run. And so I think it's very interesting in the sense that the angles the developers will be able to take with some of these concepts and what they're able to do with the expansions. But this was just kind of an aside to me. I felt like it was, very disingenuous to say, I think that this model is unfair, but I think it's not unfair what you did to Dooley. And so it's just one of those takes that you haven't seen along the way. Maybe nobody plays Dooley anyways, right? Nobody wants or likes Dooley anyways. He was bad at the end of the closed beta, and so nobody cares about Dooley until he's good again, and he won't be good again until an expansion comes out, so we'll just completely forget about him. And so the next section is just here, so I don't get fined. I hope you know the man on the screen. It's the man, the myth, the legend, beast mode Marshawn Lynch. And he's given one of the greatest interviews of all time. Not just interviews in sports, interviews anytime, anywhere, everywhere. Interviews with Jesus, interviews with Barack Obama. They all pale in comparison to this interview with Marshawn Lynch. And so if you're not familiar, it happens at like a pro day at the Super Bowl. And so the Super Bowl is like a week-long event, like 2, 3, 4 days before the Super Bowl. The teams and the players and stuff have to get together with the media, just answer a bunch of questions and do a bunch of bullshit. Marshawn does not like doing this. He is very introverted. He does not like dealing with crowds. He does not like dealing with interviews. I can't remember if he skipped one or if he had a bad one in recent times, but he just does not want to be there. But if he's not there, he's going to get fined. And so the way that the interview goes, you got it kind of close captioned on the screen, as he says, just so y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions that you want. I'm just here so I don't get fined. And the media are kind of like, okay, sure, you're a bit of an eccentric, Marshawn. Let's get into the interview. And so somebody asks him a question and he just leans in and says, I'm just here so I don't get fined. And they're like, okay, interesting. And so then the next guy comes up and asks the question. He's like, Marshawn, how many yards you going to run? And he's like, I'm just here so I don't get fined. And they're like, oh, this is really it, huh? And so the next guy comes up and he's like, oh, you gonna beastquake anybody today? And he's just like, I'm just here so I don't get fined. And like the media gets it at that point. Marshawn is just there so he doesn't get fined, and that's just the answer to the every question after that. Then he gets to his full minimum interview time. It says, just here so I don't get fined, and takes off. And the kind of main point for me to take away from this exercise is sometimes it's okay to just say nothing, right? If you're not going to be prepared to do patch notes, if you're not going to be prepared to fully explain what people probably look at as one of the most important systems in the game, how I'm going to give money to your game, if you're not prepared, then just don't put it out there. The patch notes review looked like, like Raynad had to step aside from eating his dinner. put together a quick video because it was a requirement and it didn't get done at work, and he's like just done with work for the day and wants to do it, and so he just kind of checks in, like reads the words that he's supposed to read, doesn't explain it very well, and that's what kind of led to the kind of shitstorm of the open beta. It's just a very low professional quality event that those patch notes were released in terms of a very high impact and important piece of knowledge for the community. And so to me, it would just been better to not do it. Just release the patch notes if you want to explain it more after the fact. So be it, whatever. But it feels like to me in that space, saying nothing would have been better than what was said. You see that all across the board in terms of gaming, in terms of development, as far as devs accidentally talking about a feature or a note or making like a half-hearted promise about something in the future. You know that as soon as a dev comes out and says, oh yeah, we would like to really, add this feature in at some point in the future, and then they know that they're just like literally never going to be able to get to it, but they can't say no to that person, that people are going to ask about it for eternity, right? I think that that's kind of the downside to that pay to win stuff in the Indiegogo thing from 7 years ago or whatever. People saw that, they held on to it for 7 years. Things changed, times changed, designs changed. They did not change, and they got really ultimately super upset about it. And so that's why you really see this push away from devs talking about like previews and doing these off the cuff kind of things, and just really getting into professional mode as far as the words that are being said. And so that's kind of like part one was, sometimes it's better to just say nothing. The reaction from Reynad afterwards was just abysmal. I don't think there's any two ways around it, in the sense that whenever you are looking at these professional interviews, the people that matter are the fans, right? You never see an interview from like LeBron James to where he comes out and says the fans are fucking awful. I hate everyone in Los Angeles. The Lakers fans are fucking garbage. LeBron James will come out and he will talk trash about the refs. He'll talk trash about the rules. He'll talk trash about the organization. He'll talk trash about the teammates. He'll talk trash about the opponents. He'll talk trash about the quality of the court. He'll talk trash about the nets. He'll talk about literally anything that is possible to talk trash about in the sphere of the game of basketball, except the fans. He will come out there, have an absolutely trash game, play absolutely fucking miserable, and they'll say, LeBron, why did you play so bad? What can you do better the next time? Oh man, I'm just so disappointed. I disappointed the fans. I really wanted to come out, try my best, give the fans a good show to watch, and I failed them. I feel like I failed the fans more than I failed myself. Like those are they're canned interviews. You know that he doesn't fucking mean a word of it, but that's the way that these things kind of go, because on the flip side of that, you run into what Reynad just did. If you're not entirely inverse with the scenario, Reynad, released the monetization. The people in the Discord started going nutsos. The people on Reddit started going nutsos. And Reynad just basically says, I'm trying to think of the exact quote without pulling it up, but it's essentially that whenever Reddit gets incensed, I know that I've done something right because Reddit is wrong all the time. And it's just, a kind of poor way to talk about the fans. The same thing applies into the Discord. There's a very real consensus of, I'm right and you're wrong, and here's why I'm going to tell you about it. And the thing with it is like I think Reddit or Reynad is like 100% spot on with the monetization and the things that he was talking about. The difference between players having packs and players not having packs is probably a 1 percentage point different in win rate. The only people that it really matters for, the only people that are really, really, really going to have like a cause and effect type of reaction to the existence of having packs or not having them, are going to be the people at high legend. And those people probably just purchased all the packs anyways. And so the impact physically, the impact statistically is probably pretty non-existent. I'm quite good at the game. I am not in that like very high legend space. I would be higher than dumpster legend, but below the ultra good legend space. Like I'm probably like barely touching that space of being affected by it. But for 99% of the community, they will have no difference whatsoever between having access to those packs now and access later, statistically. But the kind of emotional response, the FOMO, the person beating me with this while I don't have access to it, is very real. And you could see that very visceral reaction to to what people felt about that and what people had to say. And I think that, the thing that really kind of sums it up in that context is the movie The Big Lebowski. I don't remember the entirety of the context of the scene, but it's like the dude and Walter are sitting down at the diner having some kind of conversation, and like Walter gets super stubborn about like one topic of conversation, and just like starts like slamming the table and yelling about it, and like being 100% spot on about his take. And the dude just says, Walter, you're not wrong, you're just an asshole. And that's like exactly what sums this up. I'm not directly trying to call Reynad an asshole, but that is like just to me the most spot on analysis of this situation with the bungled release of the open beta is summed up in what the dude had to say there. Walter, you're not wrong. You're just an asshole. And I think that that's exactly, how this played out. I think statistically, Reynad is 100% correct. The having access to the expansion now compared to later doesn't make a huge deal. You're not going to notice any difference in your win rate. You're not. I think the thing that he said in Hearthstone was like, you're not even thinking about the cards in your own hand to make plays with. You're not thinking anywhere near about the cards that are in your opponent's hand. Why do you fucking care about this stuff, right? And it's not wrong. He is 100% right with that, but the delivery of that information is just not good. And so I think it does kind of warrant coming back and studying perhaps some of these professional athletes that are coached on the media, right? It's better to say nothing if that's what needs to be said, and don't be an asshole to the fans because they're the ones that are keeping the bills paid. And so for our fourth section here, I'm hoping this is something that really resonates with at least one person out there. I hope at least one of you viewers has been sticking around since the days of Expedition and Legends of Runeterra, and that's what we have on the screen here. This was the draft mode in Legends of Runeterra, and I wanted to call it out because it sounds like there's a lot of similarities between what happened in an Expedition and what we're seeing at the start of the game in the games of the Bazaar. And what I mean by that is Reynad refers to them as the kits. And so there is that start of the game motion. Right now you have that choice to get the gold start with extra gold, extra income. You have the choice to get the small item enchanted start, or you have the choice to get the choice to get the gold skill. And I think it's worth to call out, Reynad did mention that, they're thinking about adding things, say, like the sniper's kit. And so maybe you had the choice to get like a suppressor or a sniper rifle or, a left eye, right eye, just kits that are designed to fit a specific theme around an idea within the game. And so maybe there's the aquatic kit, the sniper kit, the ammo kit, the whatever kit across whatever champion that you're playing. And I did want to make this kind of direct comparison to Legends of Runeterra. It's exactly what we saw in the draft mode there. The way the draft mode worked in Legends of Runeterra is you can see these names like Pex and Pets. That was a 2-champion combo. I think it was Pantheon and Yumi within this game. And there's basically just a defined collection of cards within this kit. And at the initial release of the game, there might have been, say, like 30 kits. I don't remember what it was. But at the end of the game, before they completely removed expeditions, whereas there was like 50 or 60 of them. And it was just an incredible amount of information to maintain. In terms of what lived within these kits, and then Riot just never balanced them. They didn't have the time to do it. They've had very little opportunity to go in and retune these kits, and so something created at the initial onset of the game didn't have anything in it from like 5 or 6 expansions later, and so they started to fall behind. Some of the kits were just completely unplayable, and some of them were exceptionally good, and so it was something that desperately needed to be maintained, and Riot just did not have the bandwidth to do it, and so it just didn't get done. And so there's kind of two things that I really wanted to call out with this section. Number one, I think it's kind of an interesting idea that at the start of the game there is just none of that. There's none of those bubbles. It's just day one starts, hour one, day one, go to a shop. You're in the Bazaar, get to it. And I don't know if the game plays out any better or worse, but I think that there is a definite design constraint on the game, having that opener right at the start and tying into what happens. And so I, of course, don't have the bandwidth to try things out with that not being there as it is right now. There is a lot of definition to your draft based on what you find out of that initial kit. And so I'm kind of curious how things would play out differently uh, with either more or maintenance to those kits at the start. And so I know that in Reynad's, I believe, most recent video, the patch note review for the open beta, I think he did mention the kits in there a little bit. Everything kind of runs together at this point, and I thought it was kind of interesting to call out in this context. But it does also bring me back to that kind of initial complaint point with the non-existence of all of the packs within everyone's game pool, right? If you're a free to play player, you don't have the pack. I purchased the pack, and so there's this asynchronous nature to the cards that are available. That's exactly what happens in Expedition here. As you look at the screen and don't understand what's happening, that's fine, but you see what we have here as a synergy pick. That's a collection of card pools that the game thinks fit within our deck. And so Pex and Pets, Radiant Dawn, whatever there is in the middle, that is what you would call a synergy pick. And so you don't draft like in Magic. It's not like in Magic to where everyone drafts from the same collection of opened up cards, or it's not like Hearthstone Arena where everyone drafts from the same pool of cards within Expedition and Legends of Runeterra. Here, you drafted within these kits, and on this synergy pick, you were offered up cards within similar kits to what you've already drafted, and then this wild pick was drafted just from all of the cards in general. And so the drafts within Legends of Runeterra definitely had this asynchronous nature as to where, depending on how you draft and how you pick your colors and pick your cards, you could kind of navigate back and forth between what would happen within the synergy picks. You could definitely limit the packs that you were trying to see and trying to exclude packs that you wouldn't see. And then with the wild packs, it was just everything goes. You could find anything. And while I get that doesn't translate directly into being open beta release, I have the Vanessa pack, you don't. I think that given the extreme success of this, I thought Expedition was one of the most absolute best draft archetypes of all time. I think as we get into the future and you run into that spaces to where, Vanessa has the option for 5 expansions. She probably doesn't want to play all 5. She probably wants to play with 2 or 3 of them, or maybe even 0, who knows? But it just opens up that space to where you get these different varieties of Vanessa. And I think that that's going to just be such a super interesting aspect of the game that we're not able to see right now. That's not something that can pay off for another, 6 months, 12 months, maybe even 2 years down the road for the game to really get, kind of fully fleshed out that way. But I think it's very important to call out as people have trashed on so hard the pay to win and air quotes asynchronous nature of the game and its current existence point compared back to what we were drafting in Expedition and Legends of Runeterra. It doesn't have to be the same card pools for everyone, and that doesn't mean that the game is completely out of whack or unfair or not worth playing whatsoever and immediately giving up on because someone had this and I don't have access to it. It's just been a completely exceptional draft experience that I truly miss, and I thought the comparison was very, very interesting between what we saw in Expedition and then now how the pack system works in the Bazaar. And so I wanted to wrap this up with it's not all doom. I know that we've done quite a bit of hating. We've done quite a bit of trash talking over the course of this video. We've trashed on how the packs work and how Reynad works and how the system works and how the fans work and how everything works. And it's just all down, 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 trash, 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 garbage, garbage, garbage. And I know it's very easy to get into that negative mindset on the internet. And I think it's very important to come out and say it's not all doom. It's not all bad, right? The thing that I ultimately had such super faith in with the team of devs over at Legends of Runeterra is that they didn't hit the mark every single time, right? They would release a new feature. It wouldn't be perfect. It might be like the new tournament mode, but there were too many rounds. The new tournament mode, but not enough rounds. The matchmaking not working exactly. They'd release a new mechanic and it wouldn't be perfect. But in general, everything that they released was very, very high quality. They hit the mark on pretty much everything. And when they didn't hit the mark, they were pretty good about fixing it and cleaning it up, or, dropping feature A and realizing that while it's good on paper, isn't good in execution, but it's a good learning moment that will apply to feature B, C, and D. And so ultimately, like, Ruben Zoo and team and co, we had such faith in for doing such exceptional work that I just felt like the game was going to last forever. Unfortunately, it didn't because of money, but the devs and the gameplay and mechanics in itself, I had ultimate faith in that team. And with the release of the Bazaar and the things that we've seen out of the Bazaar, I think it's definitely worth giving props to Reynad and team that the game has been fucking spectacular. I think that, at least for me personally, having this experience of asynchronous nature is just absolute necessity in my life at the moment, right? We just had a new baby out here on my side. I can't complete a game of Hearthstone Battlegrounds. It's absolutely 100% impossible for me to have a 30-minute to 40-minute unimpaired break. I always have to get up to do a bottle or look at a diaper or make sure the baby's not hurting itself or helping the wife do something or this or that or work or whatever. And it's just completely 100% impossible. I finally got to the point to where I played like 5 or 6 games of Battlegrounds in a row, had to quit every single one in the middle and just couldn't do it. And so having this nature of the game to where you're free to play the game whenever you have time to play the game. Whenever life permits you to have a break for some fun, you can do it. And they've done such a fantastic job of making it feel like you're still playing a game directly against opponent, even though you're not playing the game at the same time with each other. And so it just unlocking that and having that work out and have like a real good feeling to it has been a success all on its own. And then addition to the rest of the mechanics and the release of this game has just all been super, super positive. And so it's like even over just the course of the open beta in the past few months, they used to right around like week 1, they had super stability issues on the server from an influx of players they didn't expect. They got it fixed, pretty reasonably. That was all great. They have the release of the combats used to be super choppy. They fixed all that. The sandstorm used to break the game. They fixed all that. Like the visual kind of things and stability kind of the game, things of the game that you just expect to be in there have been like all super improved, but the mechanics have improved as well. The tweaks, the balance changes, the addition of items, the addition of subtypes, the balancing that all ties in with that, the kit stuff at the early part of the game and the changes there and the testing they do, the adding of new encounters. Like it's very easy to see kind of like short-term gains. Just patch to patch to patch to patch, the game feels better and better and better. Is there a patch where Dooley's too good? Yes. Is there a patch where Pygmalion's too good? Yes. Is that going to happen in the future? Yes, absolutely. But it seemed to have pretty good faith in the team and kind of coming in and correcting all of these things and then just continually improving the game. The big doom and gloom moment that all the pay to win doomers drop is that, what if the new set comes out and they can't change anything fast enough and the pay to win players all get that advantage for a month? It took them like a day and a half, 2 days to drop a new patch to balance down all of the problem cards. Like if that kind of precedent remains set, even if it takes like a week for it to come into play, I find it exceptionally hard to find a lot of merit in the complaints that the complaint team has been doing on Reddit and on Discord. And so I ultimately, if things continue to trend the way that they've been trending, I have ultimate faith in this team to keep producing a super well done game that feels exceptional to play. Character after character and year after year. And, as I came from Legends of Runeterra, the team worked fantastically there and put forth the great game. The thing that failed it was the finances. I hope it's not part 2 of that story here with the Bazaar. I hope that this open beta garbage right at the onset of the game doesn't taint it enough, or doesn't destroy the reputation enough, or doesn't mess with the income flow enough to ruin a game that has been like so fantastic up to this point. And so that's it. That's my takes on the open beta up to this point. Hope you didn't get your feelings hurt, and maybe had an agree, maybe had a disagree, maybe at least had a understanding moment with where we're coming from here. And so good stuff. I had fun with that. Hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bustin' Me. Thank you for being here.